What's the magic about sulfur in soybeans?
Sulfur in soybeans. Soybeans need sulfur as a cofactor for nodulation. So if we're sold short on nitrogen, i.e. where most of our nitrogen's coming from is nodulation and fixation, we're sold short on yield. And so whenever we have situations that limit sulfur, we limit nitrogen and we limit yield.
So how do we determine how much sulfur we need? Is this in a soil test then?
Well, unfortunately, soil tests on sulfur, you can get numbers, but sulfur moves through the soil like nitrogen. So you think about the ever elusive, how many decades have we done nitrogen work on corn and still trying to find the magic bullet in a soil test? You don't have that in soybeans either, or sulfur. So you have to kind of do a little test and see, a little reference strip, do you have a response or not? Because there's going to be fields and situations like a low organic matter, coarse textured soil, that's probably going to be responsive to sulfur. But there's also situations where a good prairie soil is responding to it as well.
Okay, so what do we really do? We really can't do anything until we get those strip test results.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. So the idea is, okay, get outside of our normal low organic matter, coarse textured soils. Now it's what situations do we have that are going to be most responsive? Earlier planting dates, which a lot of us have been doing on soybeans. All right, so where do we get our sulfur from? We get it from the atmosphere. We don't get as much anymore. It's like less than 5 pounds, not 20 pounds. So we're getting it from organic matter. Well, organic matter has to mineralize, has to have warmer soils for microbes. So if we're planting earlier, cooler soils, that's going to be a prime place to look for it.
Okay. And you said sulfur helps the nodulation of
Yes.
the soybeans. So if we have poor nodulation, is the sulfur one of the first things we should look at?
Yeah, so that's definitely one of the things that I look at is, okay, if we don't have enough bradyrhizobium in the soil, so we have to inoculate, that's one, if that's a situation. Secondly is then what do we have in terms of sulfur supply to help with that nodulation? So if we don't have a good sulfur, we can apply some soluble sources to help with that.
Okay, is there a maximum that we don't get repaid?
Yeah, so usually I tell people if you're in the 15 to 20, maybe 25 pounds of sulfur, that's the range. You don't need to go any higher than that. Usually 15 to 20 pounds is more than a soluble sulfur. So that's the key. There's going to be sources that are kind of an elemental sulfur. That takes about 300 or 400 days to oxidize. Whereas ammonium sulfate, a pelletized gypsum, ammonium thiosulfate, those are more readily available.